Hello everyone, Scruffy Golden here. When I bought my hiker trailer 5 years ago, I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never owned an RV or camper or anything like that. And in fact, the only thing I'd ever towed was a car when I moved across country once, and that had disastrous results. Every decision I made during that build felt so big and permanent and had such a huge learning curve. And frankly, it was quite stressful. A lot has changed since then. Not only is there new technology, but hundreds of days and nights in that trailer have taught me which decisions worked and which ones did not. Now, when the decisions didn't work, sometimes I made the wrong choice, sometimes I didn't future-proof enough, but for the most part, how I use the trailer has evolved over time. Now, I love the freedom and flexibility of an off-road trailer, and I think the looks, price, and functionality of a hiker trailer is a hard combination to beat, which is why this time last year, I decided to get yet another hiker trailer. Now there's some technology on here that you have never seen on a hiker trailer before, or in some cases have only seen on a few hiker trailers. So I think you're gonna find those things interesting. Now I have big plans for this guy, and those are things that I'll bring to you in future videos, so be sure to subscribe if you wanna know when those drop. But for now, let me show you what followed me home. Come on. Let's start with the basics. This trailer is a hiker trailer extreme off-road 5x9, or what hiker seems to be calling the 590 these days. The 5x9 indicates that it is 5 feet wide and 9 feet long. Now my last trailer was a 5x8, which meant it was 8 feet long, and one of the main reasons I'd reached my limit with it was that the trailer seemed to always be just an inch or two too small or too short to do what I wanted to do. Now on that trailer, I made small and nimble the top priority, but over time, I've come to realize that a bigger trailer is going to be no less nimble for how I use it. So much so, in fact, that I would have gone even bigger than 9 feet long if I could have, but 5x9 is the largest version of extreme off-road that hiker trailer offers. Now I did consider getting one of the other models in order to pick up, say, a 5x10, which would be 10 feet long, but I really like the off-road functionality of the extreme off-road, and it is the only model at hiker trailer that comes with the air suspension. Not having that is a deal killer in my book. Once you travel with the air suspension, you will be really hard-pressed to live without it. Being forced to choose between 1 cubic foot of space or the air suspension was a no-brainer for me. I went with the air suspension, and thus another extreme off-road model. Now, you might not think that adding a cubic foot would make much difference, especially since the space is split between the galley and the cabin. It doesn't sound like much, I admit, but the difference is huge and affects nearly every build decision in some form or another. It determines how much solar can go on the roof, what features you can hang off the outside walls. 1 cubic foot makes way more difference than you might think. So that's what went into deciding to get another extreme off-road, but the 5x9 version. So let's get into some of the details. Let's start with the tongue and the chassis, which may not sound sexy, but check this out. Founder and co-owner Rob Reeve has been experimenting with a new, stronger style of tongue, and I was lucky to get one of the first ones. Now, I haven't had this new tongue and chassis for very long, but I already like it a lot. On previous versions, the tongue on the extreme off-road was integrated into the chassis in such a way that they were on the same plane. With this new version, the tongue is underslung on the chassis, which is to say the tongue is attached from underneath, creating additional strength and support for both the chassis as well as the tongue. Furthermore, the tongue is no longer a single bar, but now has an A-frame shape to it. This new shape and the way it's attached to the chassis has several important benefits. For starters, the new tongue is much stronger than the old one. In the 5 years since I bought my last trailer, owners have been putting more and more on the tongues of these trailers. Now, I'm guilty of this as well. For instance, I was one of the first to put the fridge and the power plant on the tongue of the trailer, and at the time, I received a lot of comments for how much weight I had put on the tongue of the trailer. I even took some good-natured ribbing from the hiker trailer folks themselves. Well, now I would be considered a lightweight. Fridge boxes, heavy tools, bundles of firewood, and totes full of everything from canned goods to toys are just a few examples of what people are putting up there these days. The original tongue was really strong, but this new design is even stronger. And this may sound silly, but I can't tell you how fast I appreciated being able to set things down on that A-frame. Now, part of the new design is this tensioning bolt. This simple bolt helps reduce or prevent impact damage to the bolt that holds the coupler in the receiving tube. The bolt should fit tightly on its own, but if it doesn't, you will hear it every time you start and stop top. And if you do this enough, the pin can actually break. A tightly fitting coupler and pin is the best answer for this issue, but this tensioning bolt helps solve the problem when you can't do that. Now, I don't know if this new style of tongue and chassis has been rolled out across all the production lines in both hiker trailer offices, but if not, I hope they do so soon, because I could literally feel and hear the difference of this new configuration while I was driving and when I was jacking up the trailer. It's literally a noticeable improvement over the tongue and chassis of my last trailer. Hiker Trailer has always had the ability to store the jacks on the front trailer wall, but the custom setup on my last trailer prevented me from doing this, so I've always just thrown the jacks into the back of my truck. The fridge box on the new trailer also covers the trailer wall, but it's plenty big enough for the jacks to be stored on it instead. Another new feature that is enabled by the shape of the new tongue is a third jack connection that sits forward of the toolbox and the fridge box. The leverage of having a jack this far forward makes taking the trailer on and off the tow vehicle much easier and allows the trailer to be stored on one jack instead of two. Best of all, there is now a way to connect a jack wheel to the extreme off-road in such a way that you might just be able to move this trailer by hand once removed from the tow vehicle. Speaking of hitching to the tow vehicle, I really like the Max coupler hitch that I bought for my last trailer, so I've brought it over to this trailer as well. The full 360-degree articulation is amazing, and I find it attaches to the tow vehicle super easily. On top of it all, this whole thing is nice and quiet as you go down the road. Easily, the most visible difference from my last trailer to this has got to be the large black fridge box sitting on that new tongue. Now, housing the fridge in the power plant on the tongue of my last trailer are two decisions that I really liked and wanted to carry forward onto the new trailer. I confess that I was worried it would disrupt what I consider a beautiful design. I shouldn't have worried. Rob Reeve did a great job of integrating the bigger box into the trailer's design vocabulary. I really like the way the box symmetrically steps up to the curve on the roof and then steps up again to the roof rack. Even though the box is quite large, it doesn't look out of proportion to the rest of the vehicle, and in fact, it's visually balanced with it. As always, it looks fantastic. Not only does it look great, but it's so much more functional than my last setup. Compared to last time, I have way more space to work with, inside and out. I opted for the storage rack on top of the fridge box, and I've already enjoyed the extra space immensely. After Rob told me he designed the storage rack to accommodate front runner wolf packs specifically, I immediately ran out and bought a set. This fridge box was the biggest deviation from my last setup, and I confess I agonized over it a little bit. The second I laid eyes on the final result though, I knew I had wasted my time worrying about it. It not only looks great, but has extended the functionality and livability of this trailer immensely. I absolutely love this fridge box. As I mentioned earlier, I love the air suspension. In fact, I wouldn't get a trailer without it if I could help it. I love it that much. It does three things that are each something I use and rely on constantly. The first is that the air suspension vastly improves the drivability of the trailer. Driving without it is just harder and louder. Similarly, the second thing it does is it reduces the vibrations inside the trailer. It doesn't take much at all for your stuff to fly around and get rattled to shards inside the trailer. The air suspension reduces this considerably, especially when you go off-road. The first time you pull a trailer with air suspension over a washboard road, you will thank me. The last thing is something you don't miss until you've done it and can't do it later. And I'm talking about leveling this trailer for sleeping. It's amazingly easy to level the trailer on quite an incline when you have the air suspension. The air suspension was one of my favorite features on the last trailer, so I simply had to order it again on this trailer. Like my last trailer, I went with 2 doors and no screens on this trailer. Let's start with the doors. A door on each side is also a must-have for me. Every single day of every single trip, I have found a way to be grateful for having a door on both sides of the trailer. And on at least one occasion, I had a need to bolt out the far side of the trailer after being unable to see who was knocking on my door. I was sure it was a zombie, but it turns out it was a homeless guy that simply wanted a tour of the trailer. He turned out to be harmless, but it rattled the hell out of me at the time and was enough to never question the decision of 2 doors ever again. Now, screens are something that many people insist on and love, but I don't use them, so I opted not to get them. Personally, I won't leave the doors open when I'm not there, and when I'm sleeping, I want the security of a closed door as well. I didn't get screens on my last trailer, and I haven't missed them, so I didn't get screens on this trailer either. And that leads us to the windows. These are Arctic Tern windows, and you're going to think that I've lost my mind when I tell you that these 2 windows cost $850 each. Yes, folks, these two windows added $1,700 to a $20,000 trailer. These windows have been available from Hiker Trailer for at least a year that I know of, and Hiker tells me that a lot of people choose these windows over the standard window. But I've only seen one in the wild to date, so I've never had a chance to get up close before now. Having said that, people who get these windows on hikers and other types of vehicles can't stop raving about them, so I took a leap of faith and ordered them. Now, my first reaction to these windows in person was that I love the size and shape compared to my last trailer. Right off the bat, they let in so much more light and air, and they look fantastic. I promise you though, I did not pay $1,700 for windows just because they look good. There is definitely a lot more going on with these windows than meets the eye. Were they worth the price? I don't know yet, but I'll have a video on these bad boys very soon, so we'll find out together. Having said that, if you found the information in this video useful or helpful so far, please hit the like button so that this video can spread to more people. I would appreciate it very much. Thank you. Sliding down from the windows are the fenders covering the wheels, and you would think there's not much to talk about here, especially since the shape and size have not changed over time. But I did decide to Line-X these fenders. This is very easy to do yourself, and the cost was less than $100 per fender. In case you don't know, Line-X is a watertight and incredibly strong material, most commonly used to line the bed of pickup trucks. The fenders take one heck of a beating, both from rocks kicked up by your tow vehicle and also from standing on top of them to get to things on the roof. Not only is Line-X impervious to anything you can throw at it, but it also provides a non-slippery surface for standing on, even when wet. Increasing the size of the trailer was a big reason for getting a new trailer, but believe it or not, it was the wheels that were the primary reason. Now I know that sounds nuts, but consider this. Wheels are attached to the vehicle on studs and secured with lug nuts which come in an endless variety of lug sizes and patterns. When I bought my first trailer, I had not settled on a tow vehicle, so Hiker Trailer went with the wheel pattern of the most common tow vehicle out there, a Jeep. It was a great guess, but I ultimately decided to get a Toyota Tacoma. This is relevant when you want to use your tow vehicle's spare tire for both your tow vehicle and the trailer, which I do. So I finally got it. With the trailer wheel pattern that matches my Tacoma, I do not need to find a location to mount a spare tire on the trailer itself. Now, if you consider doing this yourself, please note that I can't take the spare tire from the Tacoma and go straight to the trailer with it because of the wheel's offset. Don't worry if you don't know what that is. Just know that this is extremely easy to remedy, but beyond the scope of this video. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to demonstrate what I'm saying, but for now, just know that this setup allows me to easily use the truck's spare tire on the trailer as well. Up on the roof is a stock Runner Slimline II roof rack. Now, it's not clear to me if this is a normal installation at Hiker Trailer or not. I know I'm not the only one to get one, but I got the impression this might be a newer thing, I'm not sure. The main reason I wanted this roof rack, though, is that it is darn near the only conventional way to install my Alu-Cab shadow awning. Also up on the roof, and one of the best decisions I made with my last trailer was paying up for the MaxxFan. This is a great trailer fan, and its ability to operate in the rain without getting any water inside the trailer is absolutely worth the extra money. The Extreme Off-Road model allows for a 21-gallon water tank, and I wouldn't consider getting an Extreme Off-Road without it. Easy access to pressurized water for drinking, cooking, cleaning, and yes, hot showers are all made possible with this option. Again, another must-have in my opinion. Since we tend to live out of our hiker trailers rather than living in them, most of the features are on the outside, but there are still some things to show you on the inside. In the standard front and rear cubbies, I have opted for the additional latched doors. I didn't do this last time, and after watching my stuff bounce out of those cubbies on each and every single trip, well, it made adding them an easy decision this time around. I also opted for the additional shelf on the front. Now, it might sound weird, but this is one of the changes from my last trailer that I have been the most excited about. For the last 5 years, I have been keeping my clothes in a duffel bag. I intend to throw my packing cubes onto the shelf and secure them with a cargo net of some sort. I also went with underfloor storage on this trailer. I thought it was a great option last time and just had to do it again. So moving to the back, I wish I could express how cavernous this new Galley feels compared to my old one. On my last trailer, I agonized over whether I should get a pass-through in the Galley. After hundreds of nights in my old trailer, I will say I can't imagine living without it. Not only do you want the ability to move stuff between the Galley and the cabin, the shelf in the cabin also becomes a very convenient nightstand when you go to bed at night. So that's the trailer as we drove it off the lot. If you know my previous trailer or you are familiar with hiker trailers in general, you may be wondering about things you don't see. For instance, you don't see a hot water heater, solar panel, you don't see an electrical setup, shelves, drawers, power plant, water pumps, or anything like that. Now, I will be putting a lot of that in over the coming months, and I will show you all of it, including every mistake I make, and there are always plenty of those. My hope is that if I show you what I do right and wrong, you'll be able to do these things yourself and avoid the pitfalls. In fact, I made a $500 mistake right out of the gate on my first project that I think you'll want to see. So subscribe or check back into the channel over the coming weeks if you want to see how it all goes. Until next time, live without compromise, and I'll see you out there.